Old Peter Hovenden and his daughter Annie were passing along the street and emerged from the gloom of the cloudy evening into the light that fell across the pavement from the window of a small shop. On the inside of the window a variety of watches hung. Seated within the shop was a pale-faced young man.
What can Owen Moreland
Peter Hovenden was a retired watchmaker himself and the former master of the same young man whose occupation he was now questioning.
What can the fellow be about? He has been steadily working each time I have passed here, but I myself know that enough about watchmaking to be certain that is no watch he has been so busy with.
Perhaps, Father, Owen is inventing a new kind of timekeeping. I'm sure he's smart enough.
That man isn't smart enough to invent anything more complex than a children's toy.
Hush, Father. He hears you. His ears are as delicate as his feelings, and you know how easily disturbed they are. Do let us move on.
Peter and Annie walked on without further conversation until they passed the blacksmith shop.
Now that's a pleasant sight. A man who spends his labor upon reality.
Don't speak so loud, Father. Robert Danforth will hear you.
So what if he hears me? I'll say it again. It's a good and wholesome thing to depend on main strength of reality.
Well said, Hovenden.
Come on, Father.
Before we continue with our story, we must return to Owen Moreland's shop and spend more time upon his history. From the time his fingers could grasp a penknife, Owen had a remarkable talent for delicate ingenuity. Owen enjoyed carving intricate figures of birds and flowers. His parents found no use for this and sent him off to work for a watchmaker, Peter Hovenden. Peter was not impressed with Owen's character. He believed Owen had a great talent, but if he couldn't learn to apply his talent in a conventional way, it was useless. Eventually, Peter's eyesight began to fail him. He reluctantly let Owen take over his shop. Business started to rapidly decline once Owen took over due to his lack of interest in watchmaking. Instead, he spent all his time working on a different creation. After seeing Peter and Annie on the street that gloomy day, Owen had to stop working due to his trembling hands.
It was Annie. I should have known by the throbbing of my heart even before I heard her father's voice. Being so near to the one I love most makes it impossible to work. I must not think of her.
Just as Owen settles down to begin working again, Robert Danforth appears to deliver a small anvil Owen has previously ordered.
Owen, what are you about? Folks do say you're trying to discover the perpetual motion.
The perpetual motion? Nonsense! It can never be discovered. It is only a dream of men mystified with matter.
Well then, I won't hinder you any longer. Good night, Owen. If you need any physical assistance, I'm your man.
How strange is it that my passion for the beautiful and my constant consciousness of my power to create it seems so vain and idle whenever my path is crossed by Robert Danforth. He would drive me mad if I were to meet him often. In his heart, brute force darkens the spiritual element within me.
Owen was so upset by Robert's brute force, he destroyed his creation.
Oh heaven, what have I done? I've made the very stroke, the fatal stroke, that I have dreaded from the beginning.
The artist of the beautiful was now surrounded by darkness. During the following weeks, Owen became severely depressed. He began working as an ordinary watchmaker, abandoning any artistic pretense. He slowly but surely comes out of his endeavor and becomes one of the greatest watchmakers ever known. During this time, he begins recreating his idea again. One day, during the era of Owen's happy transformation, old Peter Hovenden comes to visit his former apprentice.
Well, Owen, I am so pleased to hear how wonderful your business has been doing. You have rid yourself of the nonsensical trash of the beautiful, and have become so successful. Why, if you continue this greatness, I may even let you work on my own watch.
I should hardly ever touch it, sir.
In time, you will be capable of such. What is this, Owen? What have we here?
Mr. Obvious.
For heaven's
There is witchcraft in these little chains and wheels and paddles.
For heaven's sake, do not touch it. The slightest pressure of your finger will ruin it.
Aha, young man, and is it so? We'll take your own course, but I warn you again that in this small piece of mechanicism lives your evil spirit.
You are my evil spirit. You in this hard, coarse world. I would have achieved the task if I was created for long ago if it wasn't for you.
After this encounter, Owen fell back into darkness. He stopped working and began wasting his days wandering through the woods and fields like a young child. He found amusement in watching the motions of the water insects and chasing the butterflies. Owen became overwhelmingly inspired by the butterflies and their motions. Eventually, he began recreating his idea again and got lost in his work. After weeks of being alone with just his creation, Annie stopped by his shop. She had worn a hole through her silver thimble and wanted Owen to repair it.
I'm not sure if you will condescend to such a task now that you are taking up the notion of putting spirit into machinery.
Where did you get that idea, Annie?
Out of my own head, and from something you said long ago when we were just children. But come, will you mend this thimble of mine?
Anything for your sake, Annie. With that idea of yours about the spiritualization was strange.
The thought then possessed Owen that this girl could comprehend him better than anyone else in the world, and how lovely it would be to share with his love his creation.
Annie, how gladly I would tell you the secrets of my pursuit. You, I know, would hear it with a reverence I mustn't expect from the harsh material world.
Would I not? To be sure, I would. Come, explain to me quickly what the meaning of this little whirling so delicately wrought. See, I would put into motion.
Hold, hold!
Annie had given but the slightest possible touch, with the point of a needle, to the same minute portion of the complicated machinery when the artist seized her by the wrist with a force that made her scream aloud. She was affrighted at the convulsion of the intense rage and anguish that writhed across his features. The next instant he let his head sink upon his hands.
Go, Annie. I have deceived myself and mustn't suffer for it. I yearn for the sympathy and fancied and dreamed that you might give it to me, but you lack the talesman, Annie, that should admit you into my secrets. That touch has undone the tale of months and the thought of a lifetime. It was not your fault, Annie, but you have ruined me.
Owen spent the winter back in the darkness. He was once again depressed and feeling hopeless. Owen stayed this way until spring, when a butterfly flew in from a window and circled around his head. After the visit from the butterfly, Owen begins to work once again on his creation. One evening, during the phase of a diligent work, Owen is interrupted.
Owen, my lad, we must see you at my house tomorrow night.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, but it must be so. Don't you know that my sweet daughter Annie is engaged to Robert Danforth? We are making an entertainment to celebrate the event.
Owen becomes very ill after the announcement of Annie and Robert's engagement. He loses faith, and once again he falls back into the darkness. After months of being depressed, Owen starts to fear the inevitable death. He is afraid that his life will run out before he can accomplish his task. He begins to work round the clock. Once he has finished his creation for the last time, he decides to give it to Annie and Robert as a gift to their newborn son.
My old friend Owen, how kind and neighborly to come to us at last. I was afraid your perpetual motion had bewitched you out of remembrance of old times.
We are so glad to see you.
it was not like a friend to stay from us for so long.
Well, Owen, how comes on the beautiful? Have you created it at last?
Yes, my friends, I have succeeded.
Indeed, and it is lawful now to inquire us what the secret is.
Surely, that is why I have come. You shall know and see and touch and possess the secret.
Beautiful. Just beautiful. Is it alive? You have created it, but is it truly alive?
Alive, yes, Annie. It may well be said to possess life, for it has absorbed my own being into itself. And in the secret of the butterfly, and in its beauty, which is not merely outward, but deeply as its whole system. It has represented the intellect, the imagination, the sensibility, the soul of an artist of the beautiful. Yes, I created it, but this butterfly is not now to me what it was when I beheld it afar off in the daydreams of my youth.
Be what it may, it is a pretty plaything you have wasted your time and energy over.
Father, do come and admire this beautiful butterfly.
As Peter touches the butterfly, it begins to darken.
You're killing it, Father! It's dying!
It has been delicately wrought, for it has the feelings of my own.
Take it away from your hand, Father. It is my child. Let it rest on his innocent hand. There perhaps its life will revive and its colors will grow brighter than ever.
As the young child held the butterfly, its colors began to come back. It became even more beautiful than it was to begin with. The beautiful creation fluttered all around the young child. The child held out his hand for the butterfly to come to it, but once it came to the child, closed his palms and compressed it. Annie screamed. Old Peter Hovenden burst into a cold and scornful laugh. The blacksmith, by main force, unclosed the infant's hand, and found within the palm a small heap of glittering fragments, whence the mystery of beauty had fled forever. And as for Owen Warland, he looked placidly at what seemed to ruin his life's labor, and which was yet no ruin. He had caught a far other butterfly than his. When the artist rose high enough to achieve the beautiful, the symbol by which he made it perceptible to mortal senses became of little value in his eyes, while his spirit possessed itself in the enjoyment of the reality.